The entire world of Elden Ring in Minecraft? Yes, that is what I'm doing, and last video I displayed how far I had got into Limgrave. And a couple of the troubles I came across. If you want to see what I did in the first video, you can check that out, which by the way did amazingly, so thank you to everyone who supported the project, shared, commented and engaged in the video. I'm truly grateful, and with each comment it kept me building and recording. But with that, we're going to be moving on to some new areas thanks to everyone's support. The locations are the Chapel of Anticipation and the Weeping Peninsula. Elden Ring in Minecraft is an absolutely massive task. Okay, don't. I said don't. If you know what I'm talking about, then you know that I know. What? Anyway, yes, Elden Ring in Minecraft is an absolutely massive task, and we have a lot to do. There is the whole of Liurnia, Caelid, the Peninsula, Altus Plateau, the Academy, Lanedale, the Snowfield, the mountaintops of the Giants, and of course Volcano Manor. We have pretty much the entire rest of the map to go. Limgrave is just the beginning. I have completed most of Limgrave minus Castle Morn, and I was happy about it. But it's the smallest part of the map. I've got the entire underground, I've got Siofra River, Ainsel River, I've got the entire DLC to go through, which I'll get onto at the end of the video. I will be answering some questions, but yes, everything is left. This is just the beginning. You are here at the beginning of this massive journey. This long journey. Before we venture south, let's quickly go over the short detail pass. As I said in my last video, I swapped to Conquest Reforged to have access to a much larger variety of blocks. This is a mod pack, or a mod, that adds a huge amount of blocks, like thousands and thousands of blocks. And that, combined with a few other suggestions like Victory mod, Believe mod and the Create mod, which I haven't used yet. I have not used the Create mod to make the elevators, but I will be. The clutter items and architecture makes this world come to life, and I can't believe the difference it made, especially in one particular area, which is the trees. Yeah, something as simple as trees makes a huge difference. Now I can't even look at the normal trees, which means at some point I'll have to update the existing ones in Limgrave to match the quality of the Weeping Peninsula. There are quite a few areas I will still need to touch upon with details, such as the dungeons, the ruins and the churches in main Limgrave. Aside from that, we've done about 85% of Limgrave entirely. This leaves two areas, the Weeping Peninsula and of course everyone's memorable starting zone, the Chapel of Anticipation. Even though it was short-lived, I felt like the Chapel of Anticipation was a perfect starting place for Elden Ring. You get this amazing view of Stormvale, Limgrave and Liurnia all from this isolated location, except the fact that you're bound to die here. Because of Conquest Reforged, I'm able to create very dynamic architecture, and this makes not only close-ups but far away shots beautiful. The roofing and stonework on the chapel itself was incredibly fun to create, I didn't have to spend a long time figuring out which blocks suited the palette for this build, as it just sort of came to mind immediately. Thank you, mod creators of Conquest Reforged. This mod is amazing. Another area is the terraformed pillars underneath the chapel. I spent an incredibly long time working on the cliffside since I love the look of the diagonal rocks holding these buildings up. It was very fun, but it was also quite a challenge, as you'd have to somehow angle these rock pillars so it would keep its shape while curving or being diagonally placed. But the end result looked fantastic, I think. The statues at this size weren't too bad to make, though I did have to restart multiple times due to me messing up the proportions. However, I absolutely suck at making the small statues like the ones that you find in the churches of Marika. I considered doing small statues only for Blockbench, but I have no idea what I'd be doing in that, so I gave up on that idea for now. I also found out through reading Mazewave's Conquest Reforged testing, Axiom and Conquest Reforged layers can be used together, which really helped with a lot of landscaping in both the chapel and Weeping Peninsula, so thank you Mazewave, you're a hero for testing that, and I definitely will be applying this method to the whole of Limgrave after it's got all of the content done. There is this massive hole in the bottom of Stormvale. This is intentional due to Leonia not having any dedicated terraforming done, and when I progress to Leonia this hole will be filled up, so don't worry about that for now. On the topic of issues, one of the biggest challenges recently was my Minecraft world generation, and while you might think, well, you built it in World Painter, surely there's no issue there. Yeah, well, I'm an idiot. You see, when I made the world, I forgot to change the world generation so that there was an infinite ocean that would gradually spawn as you would approach the borders of the map. And thank God for Muggle Potato over at the Axiom Discord server, I was able to replace the world generation settings to fix the borders of the map, which when rendered in would generate default Minecraft landscape. Now we have that infinite ocean that isolates the lands between even more, giving me extra room to build the Shadow of the Erd Tree, so let's all give a huge thanks to Muggle for helping me with that, and both mod pack optimizations too. Even though I'm sure he was mentally tortured to get all the numbers right, sorry Muggle. But the issues didn't stop there, however, because I was not ready for what loomed on the horizon. do they call it the Weeping Peninsula, you ask? Well, I'm not any kind of Elden Ring lore expert, but I can definitely say that it's because they have these incredibly annoying pine trees that you cannot force me to make. You cannot force me to make them anymore, okay? These things basically gave me RSI. I felt like my wrist was going to explode. Placing each individual pine thing was physically painful. I need a dedicated tree friend who can supply me with intricate trees. And then we have terraforming. My god, they were a pain to build up. I had to basically delete the entire landscape and create it piece by piece, because what I had originally created in World Painter was about 10% accurate to Elden Ring. I don't know if I am just clueless when it comes to topography, but I definitely felt surprised when I saw it in game as well as in Minecraft. The sheer difference made me wipe the island and essentially build it from scratch. I believe on that fateful day I woke up at 8 AM and went to sleep at 6 AM, just purely terraforming. But with that done, the result was well worth the effort. You know, sometimes you forget to appreciate the world around you. If you've played Elden Ring, Souls games, or games like The Witcher, you just forget to take it all in. Look around when you're travelling about to view the beautiful landscape. I've spent nearly 1,000 hours in Elden Ring just looking at landscape, trees, LODs, architecture, and you can see the beauty and design intelligence that went into creating the game. There are some places that look fantastic that I never even realised, such as on the hill next to this broken round tower, or looking down into the pit of the Weeping Peninsula from atop the Minor Erdtree platform. It makes me truly look forward to when I work on Caelid or Liurnia, as you'll be able to see the whole of Limgrave from far away, and it sort of builds up these layers of landscape between them. It gave me a totally new perspective on good cinematic game design, and brought me back to when you first see the Academy, or even in a game like Dark Souls 3 when you stumble upon Irithyll for the first time. First step into the Weeping Peninsula is of course the Bridge of Sacrifice. It's this large bridge affixed with a ballista and defensive structures. I'm not sure if it was intended to keep the demi-humans from coming into Weeping Peninsula or out, as it seems to point towards main Limgrave. You then come across Irina, who I made a very short video in my YouTube posts about as a preview for this video. She requests help to retrieve her father from Castle Morn, who is held up there defending it. However, while in game, you can venture easily to defeat the boss in that zone and deliver a letter to her father with relative ease. I unfortunately had to say, sorry, I haven't built it yet, but I will get around to building your dad soon. So she got upset and left this little letter here on this rock. So we will get around to it soon, I promise. On journeying past the chest carriage, you come across a small camp to relax. You will find a merchant here alongside a grace. There are these wind channels that you can jump up, however I have not found a way to create them in the world, or whether I would bother trying to figure out something like that, but for now you can travel up the regular way and you'll come up to one of my favourite builds so far, the Memory Stone Tower. The build palette I originally used for this was a stone brick one, with a few smooth stone blocks here and there, just to outline areas, but I didn't like how light the tower came out. It was a sort of lightish grey with some whites and a little bit of dark grey, but I swapped out this faded blue brick colour which suited the towers much more. Overall, I was very happy with the design, and it'll be one of those recurring builds in Elden Ring, since you see a lot of these around. After the tower and most of this side minus the dungeon being finished, I looked towards Ailing Village. This place was covered in trees, and where I first discovered the pain of building pine trees. I built a house with the inspiration from Man of Dutch's Elden Ring related posts, and tried to keep my building consistent to the in-game look of each of the different variations, which is perfect since these are also recurring builds throughout the lands between. The church here might look very different than the church in my first video, because not only is it a bit smaller, it's a lot better designed. I realised that the third Church of America was huge, and because I had created it in default Minecraft, I was missing a lot of the detail I wanted. So I recreated the church and made a template, several blueprints for the future, so I could keep creating the America churches. I think the redesign choice was worth it. I won't redesign every structure, but anything that is reoccurring will likely see an update. I will also try and touch upon a couple of other areas in Limgrave to make sure they get a redesign, but it will most likely be me coming back from doing Caelid or Leonia, just like a couple of hours here and there fixing up places in Limgrave. As for the rest of the Weeping Peninsula, it's kinda just a lot of trees, a few of these giant stone arches, which I also redesigned slightly, and the entrance to the Morn Tunnel. My next challenge was the minor Erdtree platform. It was kind of hard to tell where the trees sat on this area, but I placed it and committed to it. I had to create some new trees for the orangey leaves you see under the tree, as well as update some of the blocks on the minor Erdtree itself, just giving it some nicer leaves as I had been using light blocks, glowstone and glass blocks, which just weren't cutting it anymore. The tree in Mistwood will also likely see a change soon. After designing a few of these broken pots for future builds, I was ready to move to the adjacent platform, which is where the Church of Pilgrimage is situated. And by the way, why is there a statue of Radagon here? I don't understand why it would be here, and if you know, let me know, because I have not built this yet. And I was thinking it could be a good idea to get some community Radagon statue going. So with this, I have created a new Discord community server. It's very early days at the moment, but if you would like to join, the link will be in the description, and it's going to have a description of the statue of Radagon. And if you would like to put forth your own design, I will either choose a fitting design from your guys' contribution, or I'll tackle it sometime soon myself. But this is not because I suck at statues, yeah, totally not that. Anyway, with that out of the way, we get to the sweeping slopes down to the 4th Church of Marika, the dungeon where I believe you need to go for Selen's quest, and then you go back up to the tower on the far side. All of these areas are fairly obvious, and I had already created a round tower template, and the churches from earlier too, so they were relatively easy. But the next build was incredibly fun, but quite a challenge, the walking mausoleum. It was kinda hard to find the right blocks for the architecture on this, but in general, I think a good amount of darker bricks with lighter outlines felt pretty tidy. It gave a good depth to the structure, and inside was relatively easy, minus the statues that I haven't built yet. I know this will be a reoccurring theme. I am going to apologise now for every future video that I do not build a small statue in. But it's just so cool to see these things from afar. I'm very glad with how it turned out, and I can't make it move or fall to the ground sadly, but cinematically it looks great. This is pretty much it in regards to progress. I have been working on it quite a lot since the first video, and as I stated in there, the format for the videos will be like this, most likely. Unless Conquest Reforged updates to 1.21 and I can use the flashback mod for all of those montages of the building and all of that. But until that time, I will most likely just stick to explanations, cinematic shots and walkthroughs of what has been created. Thank you to everyone who really supported me on my first video. It has been incredible to see all of the comments, advice and kindness that you've all shared regarding me and the project. I always try to reply if I can, and the more these videos do well, the more it pushes me to improve and keep creating content. So without all of you, this really wouldn't be possible, so thank you again. Now for the frequently asked questions section of this video. I noticed there are a lot of questions in my comment section. I'll try to cover as much as I can. If I miss anything or you have any new questions, feel free to ask in the comments below. I know maybe not a lot of people will stick around for this area, but if you want to have an answer to a question that you were thinking about, or maybe somebody already commented, this is where it will likely be. A lot of people have asked if I'll be creating the DLC Shadow of the Erdtree in this map, and yes, my plan is to build everything you can play in Elden Ring. Which also answers the question of Peninsula, the underground. Yes, they will all be made. Preparations are already in place. Even if you don't see it on the World Painter map, don't worry, it's there. I also get asked whether I will work with anyone on this project, and at the moment it's sort of a solo project. I have received help with like the mod pack optimization and world gen borders from Muggle Potato, as well as taking inspiration for the map fragments and a small shack design from Man of Dutch, with a few bits of advice from Wizzy and a couple of other people regarding the Divine Bridge, but as for right now, I have no idea whether I'll include actual builders in my map. I am useless when it comes to servers, and I don't know how other YouTubers such as Grazzy came to work with so many friends he built with. Of course, I'll have to look into it, or if somebody knows about any of that, please do let me know, as I am relatively new in this field. Will I be doing Caelid or Liurnia next? I was going to naturally progress through the game logically. I think most people would go to Liurnia after Limgrave, and then back to Caelid at some point to fight General Radahn. But I might leave this up to you guys. Both Caelid and Liurnia have their own sets of challenges, but the landscape connecting them to Limgrave is done. As long as you don't consider that hole in Stormvale Castle, just ignore that. But generally, the connection point between them is both equally usable, and so as long as it's one of them, I could likely do either. So comment below, or maybe I'll run a poll on my Discord server to see what people would like. In my first video, I had just recovered from being very sick, and even though I definitely didn't help it because I was just building constantly and I didn't rest at all, I am glad I started this project. As I've already said, it wouldn't be without all of your support, sharing, comments, likes and care for the project. I will continue to put all of my effort into showcasing this long journey, and I hope that you'll stick with me until the end. So, until next time.